Our next presenter will be Eldur Olafsson, who is the founder and CEO of AEX Gold Inc, a public, Greenland-focused gold mining company. It owns licenses totaling 828 square kilometers in South Greenland, and its portfolio is centered around the 100% owned past-producing Nalunaq gold mine. He holds a Bachelor of Geology degree from the University of Iceland, and has worked around the world for 11 years in the geothermal industry, oil and gas, and mining in strategic management positions, growing companies from inception to successful operations. Eldur, welcome.
Right, how does this work? Hello everybody, thanks for having me here. Just want to start by mentioning something that Jim said earlier, that we're really pleased to be here, and we thank again the support from the government of Greenland in holding this event and doing everything in their power to assist us. We've been very pleased with the cooperation, and I would say to any other investor or potential prospector or explorer that is looking at Greenland, that this is definitely a country that is good to operate in. So I will be going through the story of AEX Gold. This is a presentation that usually lasts for an hour, but I'll try to do it in 10 minutes. I'll be talking about what we have been doing, where we're going, who are doing it, the team, and so on. And I will also be going through kind of the next step in our path as a company. So we started in Greenland in 2013 when we started looking to build this full cycle gold mining company in Greenland. Okay, and during that time we built up this team to take on first exploration. We were quite counter-cyclical in building up an asset base with the Nalunaq mine being the centerpiece, and then a land package of more than up to 1,000 square kilometers. We've now been building up our team to be more of a developer and producer. We have gotten involved Graham Stewart, who is now our chairman and has been a director since 2017. We have George Fowley, who is our CFO, full-time CFO, Martin Menard, our full-time COO, John Plant, our corporate secretary, and these are our board. Me, myself, my background is that I'm Icelandic. I built up companies in oil and gas and geothermal in the past. My previous venture was a geothermal venture that we built up in China together with the Sinopec Group, very similar in scale towards what we have in assets in Greenland. That company is now being listed in Hong Kong in the next few years, and is the largest geothermal district geothermal company in the world. So we are focusing on building up a full cycle gold mining company. That means that our previously cash producing low cost Nalunaq project is the center of gravity for our asset portfolio. We want to get that mine into production to be able to support exploration in other assets that we have, which are the Vaga licenses, the Tartok licenses, and the licenses in these two gold belts that are in southern Greenland. We are focused on quality, not quantity, meaning that high grade that usually represent low cost per ounce. So we want to be able to generate good cash flow from each ounce that we create. Secondly, we have a resource now of 263,000 ounces at 18.7 grams per ton. To put that in perspective, you have maybe about 15 mines in the world, gold mines, that have 15 to 30 grams per ton. And out of those 15, you might have 7 or 8 that are in safe jurisdiction. We have this one mine, and then we have all of the whole region there with the similar potential of deposits. And this is the uniqueness, not only for gold in Greenland, but for Greenland in general. Okay? Many of the best performing gold producing company in the world today, they are the ones that are generating on a good grade. Grade is king, as I say. So the history of the project is that in 2013 we acquired the mine from administration, a company called Angel Mining PLC, The largest creditor of that company called Cyrus Capital, which is represented there as a FBC Holding SARL, did a debt for equity swap, and we moved all of the assets, all of the license, so we're fully permitted, the assets and so on, into this new company that we then listed in 2017 here in Toronto Stock Exchange. Since then, we raised 15 million Canadian dollars, and we have no outstanding debt. We have completely clean capital structure. The board and management and myself, we've participated in every single round so far. And we were fortunate enough to have the State Development Fund of Denmark and State Development Fund of Greenland to participate in the last round. And they have been participating in other assets in Greenland, which is a huge, for us it's a huge and impressive and kind of a cornerstone investor for us in Greenland. And this is something it's very much important both for new investors looking at our project and also to have investors like that supporting the project. Currently we are actively exploring other funding options to get the mine into production, but ideally we look towards being mostly fully equity funded rather than debt. So why Greenland? It's an OSC jurisdiction. It has a very good physical regime. It has a stable government which is seeking and has been seeking to have more of a home rule dependence and more dependence on their own revenue stream from their own country, as the minister mentioned here earlier. We are seeing more and more focus from larger company going from the exploration stage towards the production stage. I mean, we're Anglo-American, Rio Tinto, Blue Jay Mining. We're seeing more and more successes with Hudson Resources, the Ruby mine, coming online, building these mines. So there is a transformational shift happening in Greenland, in my opinion. And what does that mean? Well, in the last cycle from 2003 to 2010, you can easily say about $1 to $2 billion was spent on exploration, and that has resulted in some of these opportunities that have been presented here today. World-class deposit, you discover them on surface, you're working in a good regime where you have very supportive government. And what I'm trying to emphasize here is that what I see, and others have been seeing as well, is that there will be a second wave of development in Greenland, and it's already coming. And that's what is quite exciting about it. We are based there in the southern tip of Greenland, down here. So we are at the same latitude as the most northern part of England, or Shetland Island. We're ice-free. It's quite well connected. We have an airport in Narsarsuaq. They're building another one in Qaqortoq, which is only 2 hours away from our asset. We have a town of Nanortalik, which is only half an hour away from our asset. And there are local support by the government. You're seeing advancement in the local service provider, it being Royal Arctic Line, helicopter contractors, and so on and so on. So the service industry and the whole country is growing at the same time as these opportunities are growing, which is important. What is mostly important is that the gold belt that we are focused on here are, on the one hand, we have licenses in a Nanortalik gold belt, which is a similar gold that runs through Finland and Sweden, and then the Tartu gold belt, that is a similar gold belt that is in the BDP gold belt. So we're looking at similar geology, same focus as you see many of the big companies focusing on. So this is the mine. The best way to understand the deposit here is that this is like a slice of cheese in a sandwich going through the mountain. You have more than $100 million spent on infrastructure, pier, road, the whole mine workings here, which actually helps us to faster to production. And again, this is fully permitted. They produced about 350,000 ounces, or 50 to 70,000 ounces a year from this mine at a diluted grade of 15.4 grams per ton. Here's from the picture of the infrastructure. You have the pier, you have the road, bridges that we've just built, a new bridge there. This is the deposit. It's a quartz vein that is dipping like this. This is inside of the mine when they have taken out the quartz vein, which is called open stope. You have then the free gold in the vein, and these are the processing plant that is on site. So what we've been focusing on, this is where they mined the 350,000 ounces from these 3 blocks. We have a resource that is surrounding that area of 263,000 ounces. And then we have an exploration potential where the higher part of that at 19.0 gram per ton is up to 1.2 million ounces. They basically stopped in ore here, and what we've done is that we sampled here everywhere around in 1 kilometer distance, and we've been drilling below here, and we've always found the structure. We know that the deposit is extending, and we're building up the understanding of where we will continue mining this deposit for the future. Our focus then is we're going to continue this. We know that there is a proven mining methodology in place. The processing methodology is very well understood. We are going to focus on building up a camp at site for more than 100 people to be able to operate there all year round. That will also support our exploration in the region, in the whole licenses, because then we will have an operating base. We will be doing 2 kilometers of underground development. That is to be able to both take out ore and also get more certainty on the resource, move it from inferred to indicated resource, and hopefully increasing our resources, or that would be our target. And then we will be building up a crushing, a milling, and gravity plant, and taking this slowly and gradually to production. I'll finish with this one. Sorry. To turn here around a little bit, this is the exploration potential. This is the exciting bit. I'm just going to give you a very quick example of one license that we have, and this is a typical thing about Greenland. I think this is quite interesting, especially because I can see a lot of geologists here in the room. So in this license here, we have a vagar or amphibolite ridge. So actually, Joshua Hughes, who's sitting here in the back, he was the one who was working on this deposit, and Ole. So you have a quartz vein coming up on surface here, which they saw from a helicopter. They got their first sample from this quartz vein of 2,500 gram per ton. They then did drilling through these quartz veins and they actually discovered that there were 3. They have a channel sample over one of these quartz veins of 13 meters at 70 gram per ton. On top of that, in between those quartz veins, in the granodiorite, that's also mineralized. So what you might have is that the whole ridge on average is mineralized, where you would see something that is potentially very, very large. The worst case scenario is that you have similar kind of a deposit that you would have in Nalunaq, and that's open at that and so on. The reason why I mentioned this is that we're just scratching the surface. This was just seen from a helicopter. They've just done a bit of a sampling there. We haven't followed the structure. It is known on surface that the structure continues for another 20 kilometers. This is the exciting part of Greenland. The geology is so visible. It's quite understandable, but it's so underexplored, mostly being explored on helicopters. Very quickly on ESG, and then I'll finish. On the ESG standard, it's easy to operate in Greenland under the current environment. Environment, social, and government are in such a high value with the government regulation that it actually fits within our strategy. Working to find alternative energy sources actually makes sense for our project. We lower our energy costs. Utilizing local or getting local labor, building up jobs, contractors, and so on. It's cheaper, it's better, it's more sustainable. The governance part, having strong board, being listed, building it up, it all represent the investment in entirety. So we will continue here. I'll probably be here in a year from now, and I hope that we will have developed this even further. We will always manage to do it every single time. And I want to thank you again for having me here for today's conference. Thank you.